Well, so let's quickly talk about the boot of the Kushaq. Now, in terms of the overall luggage carrying capacity, some might say that on paper it's lesser than its main rivals, but that's quite okay because in terms of the utility and the actual utilization of the space, it is just as good as its main rivals. As you can see, it's a nice square boot, a deep boot, minimal loading sill, and also the edges have some place where you can keep some odds and ends. Over here right now there's a first aid kit which Skoda has put in, but you can utilize it for some other things as well. You also get these hooks over here in the corners which say 3 kilos on each one of them. So maybe if you're a fan of curries, then you can load up a curry bag over here or that takeaway from the restaurant and just put it here safely because 3 kilos is the limit. Or maybe you're going to Big Bazaar and buying some vegetables for the kids and the family. Overall, a respectable boot and a good score of 8.5 out of 10. Now let's show you the boot, the big 450 litre boot. Now once you see this boot, you'll realize that it's a nice and deep boot, pretty big in terms of the aperture, in terms of the width. There's a bit of a loading sill, so you will have to just put a little effort when you hit those bags. It's not completely flat, but once you put them in, I think it's a huge boot, 450 litres to accommodate at least 1 full month of your trip to the hills. If you are planning to go to the hills for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month, you need 3 big suitcases in this car, which easily accommodate them in case your mother-in-law is coming, or maybe your Masih is coming from Canada and she's getting you a lot of gifts. Then definitely this car will be able to accommodate the entire luggage without any fuss whatsoever. 10 out of 10 to the boot of the Honda Elevate. I'm sure by now all of you are aware that Woodmore are the online expert when it comes to spare parts, and the best point is that they have the spare parts for all vehicles available in India. So even if your car is out of production now, maybe you have a large generation model, even then they have the spare part available, they have the entire catalog, and the best point is that they have the same spare part from a host of different component makers, which gives you great flexibility in the pricing overall. So check them out today, check out the app, it's available both for iOS as well as Android devices, and also check out the website. The first thing you'll truly appreciate about this car is this. Let me just turn off the ignition and do that once again. Wow, that's a very solid, very assuring and very confidence inspiring thud noise from the doors. Now in terms of the equipment, even the lower end version of this car come very well equipped. You get all the basics. You also get a touchscreen as well as a stereo system on the lower end version, the base version of the car. So for some people who are saying that even the base version is expensive, don't believe it, because you get a lot of features even on the base version. What you like about the car, as I just said, is the overall solid build quality. You like the overall features list. You get tire pressure monitors, you get automatic headlamps, you get cruise control. You also get touch panel for the AC controls over here, couple of USB charging points, Type-C charging points, wireless charging for your mobile phone, and you also get Apple's CarPlay and Android Auto on this car, along with some apps which are already there, like the Ghana app, Booking.com, audiobooks, as well as the Silky app. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's what it says over here. And all these apps are available via Skoda's Play Store, via Skoda's own app store. So you can check it out on the app store, and you get a lot of other information as well. You get the current consumption, you get the time that you've traveled, average speed, as well as the total trip you've done. So a lot of other information is available over here. It's a nice touchscreen, absolutely no lag in it, nice to operate, easy to operate. Menus, sub-menus, everything is clearly marked, and a host of functions on the touchscreen which can be controlled. So really nice and easy to operate. The seats also are nice and comfortable. You get good bolstering. Side bolsters are very good, very nice and comfortable as well. Lanky legs will be comfortable on these seats. And of course you also get front cooled seats, which is a very good feature on a hot and summer day like it is today. But there are some things which are missing also on this car. The first, of course, is you don't get a panoramic sunroof like you get on some other rivals. You only get this small sunroof. A lot of people these days want that panoramic sunroof, but Skoda thinks that it's better to invest in some other features, more useful features rather than that. And the glove box also isn't very large. It's a very small glove box, which means that you can't really put in a lot of stuff into it. That said, the door pins are large enough, and you also get a nice place over here where you can keep those odds and ends. Overall though, what do I think of this car? Well, I think that the fit and finish is good, the build quality is quite good, the steering wheel is nice to grip, you get good features as well, but the look and feel isn't as flamboyant, isn't as fashionista like it is on the Hyundai Creta or even the Kia Seltos. So people who prefer a subdued look on a car will prefer this, but people who want that wow factor will definitely prefer the Hyundai Creta. Anyways, I'll give it a strong score of 8 out of 10. Well, as soon as you step inside the cabin of the Honda Elevate, you'll get a sense of deja vu, and that's because the digital dials, as well as steering wheel and some of the stocks and controls, are exactly the same ones as you find on the City. So there's a sense of deja vu. That's a good thing because the dials on the City are very good in terms of the way they look, the information that they offer, and of course you get this new 10.25-inch touchscreen over here, which works quite nicely, I have to say. It's got good visibility in terms of the usage, and it's also quite nice to navigate through the menus and sub-menus. Apple CarPlay and Auto, as well as the Honda Connect app is available, and of course with the Honda Connect app you can do a lot of stuff, like you can see where your car is, you can turn it up, you can turn the AC on and stuff like that. So it's a very useful app. This car also has ADAS features, which Honda calls Honda Sensing. So of course you get adaptive cruise control, you get lane departure mitigation, lane keep assist, blind spot assist and stuff like that. So it really is very well loaded in terms of safety kit. ESP is also there, and of course the obligatory features like automatic headlamps is also available on this car. Now, how is the seat comfort? I have to say the seats just in this car as good as the Honda City, which really is the benchmark in terms of seat comfort. Very cushiony seats, no hardness about themselves, and also no hard plastics around. Yes, of course, the lower part of the center console is a little scratchy, but the top part where your line of sight is and where you're always using and fiddling around with the controls, these parts, they absolutely are very nice to operate. All these buttons, the switches, everything feels very good. And you also of course get large windows and of course big and chunky rear mirrors to give you a good view. Now this car doesn't get electrically adjusted seats, but that's quite okay because the steering wheel adjusts both for rake as well as for reach. So it's very easy to find a nice and comfortable driving position. And what's also good about it is that practicality wise, it's very good. You get big trays over here where you can keep those beverages, one place here where you can of course keep your phone for wireless charging, big top bins to keep those bottles, and of course this box over here where you can keep a lot of paraphernalia, and you also get a decent size glove box. Well, a couple of things that maybe Honda could have also added is that they could have given you a USB Type-C. They've only given you the old school USB chargers, two of them, so they could have given you USB Type-C. So that's one thing, and this USB and this 12-volt charging point is also quite useful, but I think they should have added at least one USB Type-C. But other than that, it's a very good place to be. You get, of course, ADAS features, camera-based, not radar-based, but they do their job quite well without any fuss whatsoever. Quality is good, seat comfort really is very good. I think if you have ever sat inside the Honda City, you will believe me and say that that's the best car in terms of seat comfort, and this one also is just as good as the Honda City. Well, so I'm in the back seat now of the Skoda Kushaq, and as always I've adjusted the front seat for my height and my driving position, and my height for reference is 5'10". The seats have been raised up on the front, so you can stretch your legs over here quite nicely. Plenty of place below them to stretch your feet. That's a nice thing. Special attention detail has been given by Skoda. In the back pockets, you get a big pocket over here where you can keep a big file or maybe a small bottle. And if you have a cell phone and you want to hide it away from those kids in the back, you can always keep it over here. There's a special pocket to hide away those cell phones. At the moment, I can keep this bottle over here. No, it won't fit, but you can keep a cell phone over there, or maybe even hand sanitizer, and it'll go in without any fuss whatsoever. So nice little details over there. You also get AC vents, which is now really the norm on all cars in this segment, and a couple of USB charging points, Type-C charging points, which means that the latest generation phones can be charged via these, which is a nice touch. The floor panel is almost completely flat. It's slightly raised, but not a big deal. But to be honest, this car is best used as a two-seater. People will prefer it as a two-seater and not a three-seater because it doesn't feel very wide at the back, and if you have three over here, it will become a little tight. So it's best to open up the armrest over here and just relax like this and sit and tell your driver to go on that long trip. The only other negative is that the backrest angle, as you can see, is slightly a little upright. It would have been better if it was a little laid back for a relaxing position, but no complaints because the seats themselves are quite comfortable. The hip and knee angle also is at a nice 90-degree. Plenty of support for your under thighs, and in general, it's a fantastic place to be in behind in the back seat of the Skoda Kushaq. So overall, I'll give it a good score of 8 out of 10. And as soon as you get inside the back seat, you'll immediately be reminded of the Honda City, because just like the Honda City, the backrest angle is absolutely spot horn. The seat comfort is absolutely spot on. These seats are extremely good in terms of comfort. You'll just feel very luxurious and opulent inside the cabin. Nice and large windows, which means that you feel nice and airy inside the cabin. It feels like a bright cabin. And of course, the doors also, they open up nice and wide, and it's also very big aperture. The door is really big on the back, so getting in and out of this car should not be an issue in the least. So I think what Honda says that this is the best back seat, they really are very true to their claim, because this is the best back seat in this segment, that's for sure. You get loads of room as well. I've adjusted the front seat for a driver whose height is about 5'7", 5'8", and of course my height for reference is 5'10". So if it's the same with you, if your chauffeur is about 5'8" or 5'10", and your height is roughly about 5'10", 5'11", maybe even 6, you'll be very happy. Headroom is also good. Room is more than sufficient, and as I said, the seat comfort truly is exemplary. Although it's not perfect, because at the back I think Honda should have given you USB charging points. They've given you a 12-volt charging socket, but I think they should have given you USB Type-C or the old school one. So that's one area where they've missed a trick. And of course, there's still no middle row headrest, or middle person headrest rather. So that's something also that they should have given. Other than that, fantastic place to be. I'll give the backseat experience of this car a very strong score of 9. Well, so here I am driving the Skoda Kushaq now, and this car comes with two engine options. There's a 1 litre turbocharged petrol, and there's another turbocharged petrol which is 1.5. There's no diesel on sale at the moment. And today we're driving the 1.5 petrol, which is the more powerful engine. Understandably, it produces 250 Nm of torque. And really, in terms of the overall refinement, it's a fantastic engine. Now, if Mumbaikar Nikhil was driving this car and he was testing it, he'd say that this is a chumma gadi, ek number gadi. That's how we would review it, because in terms of the driving bits, it really is, a little ahead of its main rivals. It's ahead of the Creta, and definitely ahead of the Seltos in terms of driving bits. Now, the steering wheel, even though it's very precise, very communicative, and even though it does offer you very good communication, it's not very heavy. It's a nice and light steering wheel. The gearbox, the manual gearbox, is also nice and light, and the clutch also has a nice and springy action to it. So in all these departments, it's a car which will not tire you out and will not make you feel tired at the end of a long journey. It'll keep you fresh. What you'll also appreciate about this car is the overall handling balance, because this car doesn't feel like an SUV, it doesn't feel like a heavy SUV, it just feels like a normal hatchback. In fact, it will remind you of the Polo. Yes, the VW Polo, it's part of the same group. It'll remind you of that car because the handling is so easy. It's a car you can drive on a daily basis and not feel tired. But what you'll also appreciate about this car is the overall ride comfort. Yes, the suspension setup of this car is slightly on the firmer side. It is slightly on the firmer side. But that said, you never feel uncomfortable on this car, because it feels very rock solid, very reassuring when you're driving it on the highway. And within city limits also, it'll keep most of the badly patched roads at bay. It's really the worst of worst roads which might just filter in, one or two of them, not all of them, which might just filter in. But apart from that, it really is fantastic. Also, what's good about this car is when you push it into corners, there's minimal body roll, and really, it is a good car for keen drivers. It's a fantastic car, in fact, for keen drivers, not just a good car, it's a fantastic car for keen drivers. Visibility is excellent all across. The raised up seat ahead gives you a good view of the bonnet line, so you can see all ends of the bonnet. So it's a good car for people who are just driving their cars for the first time, who just bought their new cars. It's a good car for them also. And visibility from the back side view mirrors is also quite good, and here also is nice and decent. Now, in terms of the engine, it's a brilliant engine to use. The mid-range, especially once you cross 2000 RPM all the way to its red level 6000 RPM, is spectacular. It just loves to be revved. It's a rev-happy engine. But that said, it's a quiet engine. Even when you rev it hard, it remains quiet. It's only very near its red line that you can hear it inside the cabin. And talking about quietness, the cabin also feels very quiet and very, very calming to be in, because there's hardly any tire noise, hardly any wind noise, hardly any kind of noises which enter the cabin and filter into it. So it makes for a nice experience, especially on a long journey. The 6-speed gearbox also means that the engine flexibility is greatly enhanced. If you're doing speeds in excess of 100 kph on the highway, the engine is spinning between 2,500 and 2,000 RPM, which makes the cabin also a nice and relaxing place to be in. So overall, what I'm trying to say is that if you are a keen driver, if you just buy your car for the sheer thrill of driving, if you are an enthusiastic driver, if you are someone who just enjoys going up the hills and pushing his car into corners, then this engine, chassis, gearbox, steering wheel dynamic really works very well on the Skoda Kushaq. It's one of the best in the business, if not the best. In fact, I would stretch out my neck and say that this is by far the best handling car and the best driver-focused car in the mid-size SUV segment. In fact, across segments up to 20 lakh rupees, this is the best handling SUV out there in the market, and definitely you should consider buying one if you just want a keen driver's car, which is an SUV. Well, so now I'm driving the Honda City. No, I'm not driving the City, I'm driving the Elevate, but you will get a sense of deja vu when you drive this car, because it gets the same 1.5 high VTEC petrol and makes the same kind of power output, 115 bhp, as well as 144 Nm of torque. So it's pretty similar in terms of the power output. What's also very good about this car, of course, is the fact that it feels very responsive, very lively to drive, and the engine really is a gem of a unit. Really is a fantastic motor. It's great in terms of responsiveness. You get very good responses even at the lower end of the power band. It feels quite nice and lively, and of course you can stretch it all the way up to its red line of 7,500 RPM. So it really is very good in that department. If you are someone who wants to buy a very sporty kind of mid-size SUV, then this is a great choice for you. And it's great not only because of the engine, it's also great because of the way it drives. Yes, the driving dynamics of this car are truly exceptional. The steering wheel offers you a good amount of feedback, and it's got the right amount of weight. It's neither too heavy and neither is it too firm that you start feeling tired, and as I said, it's not too light like you start feeling nervous on the highway. Overall, the suspension setup also is a very good mix of ride comfort as well as agility. And even though it's a nice and big car, it's got big dimensions, it never really feels its girth when you're driving it in the city, because it just wraps around the driver very nicely. Refinement levels are also very good when you're cruising out there on the highway like we are doing right now. And of course, if you decide to put it in 6th gear, because it has a 6-speed manual, if you decide to put it in 6th gear, let's say you're doing about 80 kph, the engine is spinning at around 2100 RPM, which makes the cabin a very quiet place. And also what aids that refinement and that cabin isolation is the fact that this car has a lot of sound deadening material used both on the flooring, under the flooring, as well as the bonnet. So that helps in the overall isolation of the cabin from all the elements on the outside, and that's a very good thing, and that's a very positive thing that you get on this car, especially for those of you who drive a lot on the highways and don't want the engine noise to filter into the cabin. How is the gearbox? Well, the 6-speed is a typical Honda unit, and I mean that in a nice way. Just like most Japanese units, and just like most Japanese cars, it just slots into its gears without any fuss whatsoever. The clutch action is nice and tight, and the shift pattern is also very positive, very short throws, so you also get a sporty element over there. And it's a very nice gearbox. Sometimes you'll just be shifting gears for the heck of it. Yes, you'll just be shifting down from 5th to 6th on the highway, and maybe sometimes just back up to 6th, because you'll be enjoying the gear shift so much. So that's something which you'll look forward to every time you take this car out on a drive. Ride comfort is also very good, both in terms of slow city speeds as well as faster speeds on the highway. And I have to say that overall, I think that this is the best car in this segment in terms of overall ride comfort. Yes, it's definitely ahead of all its other rivals. It offers you a very good mix of stability, overall agility, as well as comfort, and it really does soak in the bumps very well. So that's another big positive about the Honda Elevate. Performance figures are quite good. Acceleration is brisk, and as I said, it's really a nice and nimble car to drive around town. What's also good is the overall visibility. If you're driving or you've learned to drive your car just now, this is your first ever car, you've graduated from college, got a good job, then you plan to buy a big car, this is a good choice because you get the entire bonnet line view from here. The side view mirrors are nice and large, so you get a good view from them, and general visibility is good. Of course, you also get the blind spot monitor, where there's a camera over there on the left side mirror, and of course you also get that bird's eye view. So it really is very good in terms of visibility. Driving wise, it's good, and just in general as a package, I think Honda has done a very good job with this car. I'll give it a strong score of 90 out of 100 in terms of the overall driving department.